minus the drawer in Everett. But
hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today's video, I'm going to take you step by step through the process I used to restore this buffet cabinet that we had in our house. So this piece is something I purchased back in 2014 for around $20 at a thrift store. At the time, back then, chalk paint was really in, and I decided to go with this red chalk paint. The last few years I've kind of been staring at this piece and it's really bothered me and I haven't liked it at all. We're planning on moving in a few months, so the goal was always just to sell the piece. So it was just one last piece of furniture. We had to move to the new location. But since we're in quarantine and I really had nothing else to do, I decided to refinish it. I'm going to walk you through step by step how I got this raw wood finish that kind of turned a little coastal-y, a little vintage. Turned out great if you ask my opinion. At one point, I wasn't sure I was going to like the piece. It started looking a little bit too 70s for me, but once I got it finished and whitewashed and in the house and styled, I fell in love with the piece. So hopefully I'll take you along with this journey and you can learn some tips and tricks for any furniture projects you have in your house that you want to upcycle. Anyways, if you like this content and you do learn a tip or two, please feel free to subscribe and like the video. I'd love to have you here on this channel. So let's get into it.
okay guys, so the first step is to take this stripper called Citrus Strip, which is actually a thick gel stripper, and generously pour this all over the piece. Here you can see that I'm doing the front of the piece, and I did a time lapse so you can see it in real time. I'm pouring globs of that citrus strip on just a cheap paintbrush and generously applying it all over the paint color. The trick with citrus strip is really to lay it on thick. The thicker it is, the easier it's gonna, eat through that paint layer. So just cover your piece all over with citrus strip. And then I usually let it sit for about 20 minutes until the paint really starts to bubble up. You really can't put on too much of this product, so just apply generously. Then by taking a plastic scraper, and plastic is important because you don't want to gouge the wood with any type of metal scraper. After the citrus strip has set for about 15-20 minutes, you can go in and start scraping. Since this is just chalk paint, it came off way easier than expected. I was expecting to have to do at least 2 coats of the citrus strip, and I ended up only having to do 1. The chalk paint came off very easy. Now that I've gotten the majority of the paint off with the scraper, I'm taking this after wash, which is an after paint stripper wash. It's made with some type of acetone. It's very strong, and it just kind of breaks up the goo from the citrus strip, as well as getting any leftover paint in the crevices. I also have this detail brush that you can see there that I'm using. It's made with wire bristles, and that really kind of helped get into a lot of those grooves in this piece and all that detail work. Okay, I'm just over here hand sanding some of the detail pieces. Let me show you. So the wood is very grainy, and I'm trying to take a lot of that out. A lot of that is just like the old stain and veneer. So I'm just trying to take that out, and I'm gonna hand sand a lot of these little details around here. But here is the piece. stripped. Okay, so today I got pretty much the rest of the main part of this buffet table sanded. This was quite a bit of work. The saga continues. Okay, for the doors, I took off of the knobs and they have this little metal piece that was right there, which I'm not going to love. So I'm just taking a screwdriver and hammering it underneath and just popping it off. They're just two little nails here. So once I do that, then Ev's helping. I'm gonna put some citrus strip on this and start scraping off some of the paint. And then for the lattice, it's pretty easy. I was going to jigsaw it out, but it's actually just placed in there. So like Eric for that side just punched a hole in it and we were able to pull it out. So I'm just gonna hammer and break it and pull it straight out. And then I have the drawer sitting in citrus strip right now. All right, I got the citrus strip on the two doors. I covered it with saran wrap because it's pretty hot out here. And when it starts to dry, I'll show you what happens. So I put citrus strip on this and kind of let it sit for about 20 minutes. And as you can see, it's still pretty red right there. That's the paint. The citrus strip dried and it becomes kind of gummy. It's a little hard to get off. So I'll have to end up sanding that. That's just the drawer for the inside. But by putting the saran wrap, I'm gonna let it sit for about 20 minutes. But because it's hot, it tends to dry out and then it'll get stuck to the doors and just cause me more sanding. So saran wrap. The goal for today is to get the door sanded, the drawer sanded, and get the lattice pieces cut out of the two doors, and then get at least one coat of bleach on them. It's a truck. You can hear Everett running around. This piece has now had 2 coats of bleach. So I will probably put on another coat today. Okay, so the buffet table is completely sanded and bleached. I've got 3 coats of bleach on here. And after the bleach, I wiped down with water and then I went in with a 220 grit sandpaper just to finish it off. And the doors, the lattice is now removed, paint and sanded removed. I've got 1 coat of bleach, so they're just gonna sit here for a few days while I keep adding coats over the time. So now it's time to stain this and put some poly. Okay guys, here's the piece stained. I used weathered oak. Today is the day for poly, so I've let the stain dry for about 24 hours, give or take. Here's the poly that I'm using. It is completely clear matte poly. I don't shake this so that I don't want any bubbles in there when I put this on. So this is a super cheap brush. I wish I had a better one, but it is what it is. And we're just gonna start here and we're just gonna wipe it on. It is gonna darken the color. So I'll be doing something else after this poly coat, but I'm gonna poly this piece and let this sit for 24 hours and then there'll be one more step. All right, stay tuned. Okay guys, I'm gonna show you the whole process of adding the poly onto the doors. So as you can see here, I just got a cheapo brush. I wish I would have found my poly brush, but I couldn't find it in the toolbox. So we're going with this cheap one. And I'm just adding on some poly, just painting it right on. As you can see here in those cutouts in the dresser, I added cane material. Now this cane material was purchased from a company called Frank's Cane Supply in Huntington Beach, California. They had really fast shipping and they sent it over to me within a day after purchasing. So I just staple gunned the cane on the doors. And as you can see here, I'm just going to add the hardware back on to put the doors in place. Since this piece is just going to be ours in our house, I did not strip the paint off the inside of the doors. We don't use this cabinet. It is strictly a storage cabinet in our entryway. So having the red inside of the doors was not going to be a problem for me after this piece was done. After the poly dries, just a quick little sanding, and then I added 2 more coats of poly after that. But as you can see here, the middle door has been whitewashed and the 2 outsides just have that weathered oak stain. And with that stain, with the cane in the insert, it really was giving like a 70s vintage vibe, which I was not a fan of. And that's why I ended up whitewashing. So you can see here, what I'm actually using is a lime wash. It's a lime wash glazing wax. It's made by Valspar. You can pick it up Home Depot, Lowe's. And I'm just taking a rag and just wiping it on. It really kind of ages the wood, but gives it that bleached, beachy look over than a rustic, aging look. Something as simple as this little whitewash really changed the whole look and feel of this piece and really gave it that natural raw wood bleached look that I was really hoping for. I did end up actually putting a little bit of this whitewash glaze on the cane as well because it was a little yellow for my liking and I wanted it to blend in a little bit better with the wood being that bleached color. I ended up putting a second coat over the whole piece and it really finished off the look I was going for, and I'm very, very happy with the way that this turned out. Now this piece had the weirdest wood piece on the bottom. It actually like elevated the main part of this cabinet by a couple of inches and it just really bothered me. So I ended up just jigsawing it off and here's the finished product. If you liked this video, please feel free to subscribe. I'd love to have you here on my channel. Or you can follow me on Instagram at Shasta_Davidson DIY for all things DIY with a sprinkle of mom life.